Being very entitled and controlling, narcissists have no difficulty stepping all over your personal boundaries. So that's why I put together an extensive video class called This Is Me. It has 25 videos, written documents, guided questions. I'm going to teach you how to have healthy boundaries. There's a link below, and I hope you'll find it to be quite therapeutic. Hey, Team Healthy. Okay, I want us to start with an honesty kind of question. How many times have you responded to a narcissistic individual with emotions that made you look like you were rattled, you were unglued, you were unhinged, and your tension had started running away from you? How many times has that happened where the narcissist has said or done something that makes you think, I can't stand this. This person's driving me crazy, and you become a kind of person that you don't particularly want to be. Now, virtually every one of us has had our moments where it's like, yeah, they got to me, and I know that I responded poorly, but it happened, and I don't know what to do with it. Narcissists don't just like it when you are emotionally rattled. They need you to be emotionally unhinged. They need you to be dysregulated. Now, why is that? Let's keep in mind, narcissists aren't exactly the poster children for emotional stability. They have all sorts of crazy emotions and erratic ways of dealing with individuals. But when they get it to the point where you then become unhinged emotionally, then it allows them to build their own self-validation at your expense. Because they can think, okay, you don't like it when I get tense and angry. Look at you. Look how bad you are. And so they minimize who they are and they maximize who you are every single time you become unglued. Now, let's keep in mind, narcissists suffer from, we might call it a disease of insensitivity. They don't really see your humanity. They don't want to get on the inside with you and say, we all have our highs and lows and ups and downs. They don't care. All they want is control over you. You're never going to be equal to them. They're always going to come at you with some sort of angle so that they can stay in the superior position. As long as you're a fixture in their world and someone that they're going to keep coming back to, then that means in their mind you're someone to be used and exploited, and there are going to be plenty of times when you feel that that's occurring. And then they're going to give immediate attention to their own urges or their own reactions. And many times that's going to override common decency. That's the way they operate. And then when you're in the midst of all of that, the emotion can just get really strong. Now, I want to talk with you here about how you can get away from this, from your reaction to that. And because, one of the things that I talk about here on Team Healthy is that we want to be individuals that don't get sucked into the games that narcissists play. The secret that's going to keep you from being rattled with a narcissist is this, and that is stay aware of your biases. Now, when I talk about biases, we all have them, okay? So it's not something that a few people have and a lot of people don't. Everybody has their own personal biases. And for example, there are certain things that we favor or certain things that we prefer. It could be some of our beliefs or standards that we maintain. It may just be something on an emotional level that we have. We have preconceived notions about what is a good life consists of or what fairness is. We have a certain kind of individuals that we favor over others. That's part of our bias, and we all have them. One of the biggest problems, though, when we hold on to our biases very strongly is our biases can keep us from being objective. Let me give you some examples of what I'm talking about. I recall one woman who just very strongly and sternly says, I can't handle people that drink alcohol. Now, in her case, she had grown up in a very rigid, moralistic kind of a background, and it included no alcohol. And so as an adult, her bias was, well, if you drink alcohol, then you're somebody I don't like. I had another person that also said, I'm just not comfortable with people who drink alcohol. But in her case, she had a daughter who had been killed in a drunk driving accident. and the daughter was like 19 years old, and it was an awful situation for her. And because of that, she had a bias. It's like, I don't want to be around the party crowd and then watch them leave and I know they're going to be drinking, and who knows who's going to be the next person, like my own daughter was. We can have all sorts of reasons for having our biases. It could be that you had an ex who treated you in a certain way, that maybe they were real passive aggressive. And then when you pick up on somebody who's of a similar way, it's like, I'm not dealing with anybody like that. I've already had my fair share of that. Or it could be that you had a mother or father who screamed at you whenever you made a mistake. And then so when you have somebody in your current life that's very strongly opinionated, it's like, my bias is such that I don't want to be around those highly opinionated kind of people. Or it may be that you had a boss who treated you with disdain, and so now you're hypersensitive whenever somebody else comes towards you in a similar kind of way. There are all sorts of things that can help us form our biases, and the bias itself may or may not be necessarily right or wrong, but there it is. And then whenever you're dealing with a narcissist, because they tend to be so dysfunctional, it's almost a guarantee that they are going to run against your own personal preferences and your own personal biases. And then in that case, then you wind up responding very emotionally. Why can't they just quit doing that to the extent that they've got you? Now, there's a characteristic that is an opposite of the narcissist's gross insensitivity, and that's the characteristic of conscientiousness. Ideally, each one of us would think, well, I want to be conscientious to the extent that there's a consideration, there's a decency that I use when I approach other individuals. I want to make my own personal plans with the good of the people in front of me intact. But narcissists, rather than having their conscientiousness, they don't have it. All they're thinking is, I'm right, you're disgusting. Or if you respond poorly to me, it's because you're damaged goods. And so they'll take their beliefs and all, and then when they see you with your own separate ideas and preferences, they'll just condemn you for it. And of course, that can trigger you. And you want to think to yourself, well, I make sense. Or I'm really tired of having to deal with all of your dysfunction. It's driving me crazy. You're driving me crazy, and your bias can be ignited. Now, as we think about how we can carry these kinds of things, and then we want to realize it's okay to have our biases, but we need to do so with a balance of objectivity. There are certain things I'm hoping that you can consider. And that is, first and foremost, let's acknowledge, you don't have to apologize for having biases. Now, it might be that you'll need to examine them from time to time if it seems like, maybe I'm being a little too hard-headed, or maybe I'm being a little too closed-minded, or it causes me to not be able to accept folks for what they are. There are times when you need to examine that part of it, but the bias itself is not wrong. As you see that other people, though, don't really care about who you are and what standards and values and what fairness is all about, I think it's going to be necessary for you to say, I'm going to give myself permission to grieve. There's a certain agony that we can each have when we encounter individuals who run counter to what we believe is wisest and best. It's okay for you to say, I hurt. Or I find that person disgusting, or I find that person to be impossible. I don't like that individual, or this needs to stop. I mean, it's okay for you to have that, and you have a grief that comes with it. But then, rather than trying to force that narcissist to see the light, there's going to need to be a sense of objectivity, as I've mentioned, that comes into play. Cease attempting to make the narcissist see the light. They don't care. Like I said, they don't have good insight. And then the more you try to convince them that your bias is correct and their bias is incorrect, you just fall into a trap. And now, this doesn't mean that you can't be assertive. This doesn't mean that you can't speak up, because you can't. But you want to do so with a certain amount of reality in mind. I can stand up for myself, which I will at times, but I know that the narcissist may think that my preference or my sense of fairness is no good. That's on them, but I'm going to hold on to my own reasoning here. Also, as you try to figure out how you're going to maintain this sense of steadiness that I'm talking about, go ahead and make room for some brokenness. And when I say brokenness, we live in a broken world. I recall so well a woman who was talking about individuals who make decisions, lifestyle decisions, voting decisions, and, who they hang out with. And someone's just made the comment that says, sometimes you just need to accept the fact that people aren't going to be the same as you, and they're just going to be their own crazy self. And her response was, I can't go there. I can't think that way. I can't accept people who are that dysfunctional. And what happens is when someone thinks like that, then the bias is in charge so much that they're stuck inside their anger. And so rather than saying, well, I don't want to accept the fact that I live in a broken world, well, you do. And so let's go ahead and accept truth. It doesn't mean that you condone it, but you acknowledge the reality of it. And then let's keep in mind, too, that narcissists with their biases just have no insight, and I'm going to make room for that. You see, the narcissist thinks I have to be in control because people in my world are not trustworthy, or people are going to take advantage of me, or coordination with other individuals means that I have to be subordinate, and I'm not going to be subordinate to anyone. So I'm hoping you can recognize you have your beliefs, you have your principles, your feelings, your experiences that form certain biases as you engage with that narcissist. And it's good to know who you are and what you believe, as long as you don't fall into their traps of the tit for tat kind of game that they play. You want to differentiate yourself, and you want to remind yourself, I am capable of anchoring down in truth. My bias tells me this, objectivity tells me this, and I'm not going to let my emotion get so tightly wound up in what I prefer that I can't stay steady. So you remain unrattled, when you're able to say, I know what my preferences are, but I also know that some other individuals aren't going to share it with me. But I'm going to move forward with character development. I'm going to move forward as a healthy individual. And if somebody just can't go along with what I prefer and what I believe, that means that our relationship is going to be limited at best. Now, I hope that a video such as this can be helpful as you try to sift your way through some of the difficult relations in your life. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, I would encourage you to do so. Know that I've been sponsored for years. You know this by the folks at BetterHelp.com. And if you have a need for somebody to help you sift this out, a therapist, it's an online therapy resource. And I've had plenty of good feedback from individuals who have taken me up on this. There's a link below that will take you to their website. You can sign up, and I'm hoping you can get matched with somebody that can really help you sift this out if that's the need. Also, I invite you to go to my website, and on my website I have my courses. You've heard me talk about those that are each of them have at least 25 teaching videos with handouts and all. We have them on anger, on boundaries, healthy connections, finding your freedom from the controllers. We also have on my website my webinars along with articles, my books. We have lots of resources there. Narcissists want you to be they want you to be rattled. They want you to come unglued, and then they think, hot dog, I've got you going now. And of course, that allows them to rationalize their many dysfunctions. Let's not play that game. You have your preferences, you have your biases, be aware of that, but then also be aware that narcissists want to turn that against you. And in your objectivity, you can decide, you know what, my character, my integrity is far too important to me than for me to just jump in and play their gotcha games. I'm not going to do that. And in doing so, I'm hoping you can set yourself up to be a steady person that they can't be, but you can be a person of peace regardless. And I'm hoping that's where you find yourself to be.